Hello and welcome back to Tiny Artist TV. This is part 2 of the first video because, as I mentioned in the first video, as I was compiling everything, it got a little long. So these are still the ones that I had drawn up on the first few days. So these are going to be prompts 4, 5, and 6. So prompt number 4 was a filthy mermaid. Now, I typically don't really like drawing mermaids, partially because they're just, it sounds kind of jaded, but because they're popular, they're everywhere, and so there's not a lot of variation, there's nothing really new to do with them. But doing a filthy mermaid feels very appropriate, consider that in 2020, well, of course before then, but even more so now, a lot of people are trying to really focus on being environmentally aware, and so drawing a filthy mermaid just felt like a good costume to kind of be like, hey, stop dumping glitter and plastic and trash, not only in the streets because it eventually gets into the ocean, but like just be aware. So this poor filthy merman, even though he's looking very disgruntled at this piece of kelp, it's not the kelp necessarily that's bothering him, it's everything else around him that's bothering him. Something else you may or may not have noticed, which I hope you do because I was very intentional about this, is that the bottom half, his mermaid half, is bunched up because, again, these are supposed to be costumes. So I was trying to give the illusion that this was kind of like some PJ bottoms, or like this is a costume that he's wearing, it's not his actual tail. But back to the thing that's actually bothering him is this oil, all of this slimy, gunky, and so he's looking at the goo that's coming off of this piece of kelp, not so much the kelp itself. And then at the last minute, I remembered that I hadn't used any of the pink except for that one seashell. So this was actually part of the original design, but because I didn't have it in the sketch by the time I got to the end of it, it was just kind of like, oh, wow, whatever. So here I am adding in the last little bit of detail for our filthy mermaid, and here is prompt number 4 for Orctober. Prompt number 5. This one was pretty fun. I kind of felt it also story-wise went in tandem with the last prompt, because number 4 was the filthy mermaid. Number 5 is the disgusted Egyptian. So originally I was gonna kind of draw them side by side and have her looking at him like, what's wrong with you? But instead I just kind of draw her pointing off at something off screen. In my mind, it was a rat, just because Kenny, if you guys follow Kenny JD on Twitter, she's been tweeting about her rat story. So I kind of had, she's pointing at this something that's not supposed to be there off screen kind of pose, and just this kind of like, ew, like, why are you in my presence attitude. For this costume, I actually did do a little bit of research instead of just doing the stereotypical Egyptian. I looked to see what was actually popular fashion at that time. They typically wore just this light linen streamlined cut dress that would either taper at the neck or sometimes would have short sleeves. So I did the one that had short sleeves just because I felt like it. And jewelry was popular. They would either, higher ups, like the aristocrats, pharaohs, would have jewelry that was of course made out of precious stones. Lower class would still wear jewelry, but their beads and jewels would be made out of clay and would be painted. This was a sentiment that was across the board, is that wearing jewelry made you more appealing to the gods. So both classes, well, upper class and lower class, would try to dress themselves up as much as they were able to. This one, she has, even though it's costume jewelry, it's supposed to represent the more high class actual jewels, represented by the rubies and the emeralds that are in her bracelets, and then also imitated by the makeup that would have been made with crushed beetles. I think it specifically was a June bug or a June beetle that would get that green pigment that's like iconic for Egyptian makeup. And then the red would have just been some other kind of pigment or powder crushed up to make the lipstick and the blush. Nail polish, they actually did have a form of nail polish where they would take berries and dye their nails. This is probably more pigmented than it would have been, but it went with the color palette, so hey, this is where the historical accuracy stopped. And here is our ugly but beautiful, disgusted Egyptian orc. Number 6, and the last one for today's video, is a blood-curdling dinosaur. My first thought was, how is an orc gonna have access to a dinosaur costume? So I went to festival wear. And then I thought, well, how am I going to make this blood-curdling? So instead of this being a quote-unquote costume, this orc found some poor unfortunate kobold and just ripped him to shreds and is now wearing him as his costume. And that's that. I gotta say, I know I said for the other ones, like, I had fun doing this, but this one, I kind of like unhindered myself a little bit and just went back to just crazy pose, line art, just all of it. Just like, you know, these are supposed to be fun. So I had fun with this one. And this is more in line with the kind of art that I really do in my free time anyway. Just this kind of wild and weird. And I think for me, it was the face and then the shading. So for the shading, I used that, again, kind of dark raspberry color, and then instead of setting it to, I do have it on multiply at first, but that made it too dark. Like, it made everything more of a dark brownish burgundy instead of the lighter red that I wanted it to be. And so I set it to overlay, and that gives it this crazy, like, neon pink, like, fight scene lighting. And yeah, this is, out of all 6, I would say this is number 1 as far as the fun I had drawing it. As far as quality, I personally think my best one was either the mermaid or the Renaissance costume. Let me know down in the comments which one was your favorite, or what you would have done differently with the different prompts and different color palettes. Also, I didn't mention this, not in this video particularly, but in videos past where I've done random character generation, these are one-off characters for me, but if you want to use them as NPCs, or if you want to use them for campaign characters, if you want to flesh them out, give them a backstory, what have you, I'm completely fine with that. Just give me a little shout out and be like, hey, this was inspired by Tiny Artist character, but now it's gotten a life of its own. So this is the end of our first video for Orctober. And instead of just doing the last 3, I am going to put them all together. So number 1 was our Terrifying Renaissance, number 2 was our Smoggy Farmer, number 3 was our Condemned Demon Hunter, number 4 is our Filthy Mermaid, number 5 is the Disgusted Egyptian, and number 6 is this blood-curdling, teenage rampaging dinosaur. I hope you guys enjoyed the first couple of videos for Orctober, and I will see you on Saturday for the next one. I'm going to be doing days 7, 8, 9, and 10 with, of course, 4 all new prompts. I've already shuffled them, and I gotta say, you guys are in for a treat. See you guys next time. Have a weird day.